Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Uh-huh.
We're going deep today. We're diving into the idea of what it means to be a superior man.
Okay.
And to guide us,
Sounds interesting.
we only have one source,
Right.
an audiobook called The Way of the Superior Man.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book. It really dives deep into masculinity, but not in a typical self-help kind of way.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
This is not about
No.
fitting into some box. It's really for a specific kind of man.
Yeah.
It calls him a newly evolving
Really evolving man.
and a guy who
Yeah.
embraces both his masculine and feminine sides.
Exactly. And what's interesting is it's not advocating like a return to old school gender roles.
I was going to ask about that.
It's something much deeper.
Yeah.
It contrasts this superior man with what it calls shallow men.
Okay.
And argues that a man's depth of being is his most valuable asset,
So being grounded and purposeful.
more than his
Yeah.
career or relationship.
Living in line with your core truth.
Mm.
But how do you actually
Right.
do that? The book gives some specific examples, right?
Yeah, it does. Think about like deep gaze and steady breathing.
Okay.
It's almost like cultivating a certain presence
Okay.
that commands respect and trust.
So it's not just what you say, but how you carry yourself.
Yeah.
How you show up in the world.
Exactly.
Almost like an energy you project.
And this ties into how the book sees masculine and feminine energies.
Right.
It argues that while the balancing of these energies back in the 1960s was a positive thing, it may have led to a decline in sexual polarity in modern relationships.
So what's it saying? Like, we need more polarity.
It is. The book uses this analogy of a battery.
Oh, yeah.
Just as positive and negative poles create electrical flow, masculine and feminine poles create that flow of sexual feeling.
I see.
And without this polarity, relationships can become more like friendships, lacking that spark,
Yeah.
that passion.
That makes sense.
Mm.
Maintaining that dynamic tension.
Right.
But isn't that going against the idea of equality in relationships?
It's not about going back to traditional roles where
Right.
men are dominant and women are submissive.
Gotcha.
It argues that both men and women have both those energies within them.
Okay.
It's about consciously embodying the desired energy in moments of intimacy.
So even in same-sex relationships, it sees this as important.
Even in same-sex relationships, it uses examples like top and bottom or butch and femme dynamics to show how polarity can exist regardless of gender.
That's interesting.
Might be controversial,
Yeah.
but it definitely challenges conventional thinking.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of challenging conventions, it talks about this idea of sexual essence. Can you break that down?
Sexual essence, as the book describes it, is your core sexual energy, whether it's primarily masculine,
Okay.
feminine, or balanced.
And this isn't something you choose. This is
something
you're born with.
Something you're born with. Yeah, think about your own core energy. Do you lean more towards like being mission-driven
Right.
or connection-oriented?
So if you have a masculine essence,
Yeah.
you might be more focused on your career, purpose.
Exactly.
And if you have a feminine essence,
Mm,
you might be more focused on relationships, connection.
that's it. The book suggests that people with a masculine essence
Yeah.
are often driven by a sense of mission and purpose, sometimes prioritizing it over relationships. It even uses the analogy of like preferring a football game over a love story,
That's a good one.
just to illustrate this.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
those with a feminine essence prioritize love and connection. They might feel unfulfilled even with professional success if their relationships aren't deep and meaningful.
I can see that. So it's saying it's crucial to identify
Yep.
your sexual essence and live authentically instead of suppressing it or denying it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it ties into this idea of living at your edge, pushing beyond your comfort zone
Yeah.
of fear and security.
Like, imagine you're thinking about changing your career,
Right,
but you're afraid of failing
right.
or even succeeding.
Or even succeeding.
The book says acknowledging those fears and pushing past them
Yes.
leads to greater freedom, inspiration.
It's about aligning your actions with your deepest desires, even when it's scary.
And this is especially important
This is especially important.
in relationships.
In relationships, because the book has some pretty unconventional advice for men when it comes to understanding women.
It does. For instance, it claims that women are not liars, but they operate from a different framework,
Okay.
where keeping one's word isn't as central as it might be for someone with a more masculine essence.
Wait, what? So, like, if a woman breaks a promise, it's not because she's intentionally being deceitful.
That's what the book suggests. It's more about her living in the present moment.
Yeah. Responding to her feelings and needs as they come up, rather than being bound by a rigid sense of obligation.
So how should a man respond? If a woman does something that he finds frustrating or breaks a promise?
The book says men should see those moments, even a woman's bad moods, as opportunities to show love and penetrate her closure.
What does that mean?
It's about meeting her emotional challenges with love, humor, and action, rather than taking things personally.
Can you give me an example?
Think about a woman who's upset because her partner forgot to buy milk. The book suggests the real issue isn't the milk.
Right.
It's the broken promise. Because that undermines her trust in his masculine core, his reliability.
So it's about the deeper meaning.
It's about the deeper meaning.
Behind the surface level complaint.
Yes.
It's about demonstrating reliability and commitment, even in the small things.
Exactly. And the book says men should respond with understanding and action. Sight, not defensiveness. It even suggests meeting her bad moods with humor and affection, rather than trying to talk her out of them.
So instead of trying to fix her mood, just embrace it.
Be present with it.
Okay, that's a new one for me.
Acknowledge it.
Okay.
Respond with love. Rather than judgment.
Okay. That's pretty insightful. And the book also talks about the importance of praise, right?
It does. And it's not just about saying nice things.
Right.
The book encourages men to praise their women generously, focusing on their positive qualities rather than criticizing or trying to fix them.
I love that.
It's about celebrating her strengths and encouraging her to shine.
It's about building her up rather than tearing her down.
Exactly.
But isn't there a risk of that coming across as insincere?
It's not about flattery. It's about genuine appreciation. The book even gives an example. Encourage a woman to exercise by praising how beautiful she looks when she sweats, rather than commenting on her weight.
I can see how that would be way more motivating.
Yes.
And it wouldn't trigger those insecurities that we all have.
Exactly. The book also talks about how important it is for a man to be decisive and able to provide direction.
So is it saying women should just follow their man's lead blindly?
Not at all. It's saying that while women can and should take the lead sometimes, it can actually diminish attraction if it becomes the norm.
Gotcha.
It's about the man stepping up and offering his perspective while also respecting her final decision.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine you want to give your partner a birthday present. The book suggests that saying you can have anything you want is less fulfilling than taking charge and creating a surprise.
Putting thought and effort into making a decision that's going to delight her.
That's the idea.
Rather than putting the onus on her to choose.
Exactly. It's about showcasing your masculine energy by being thoughtful and decisive. But the book also makes it clear that this doesn't mean disregarding her opinions or preferences. It's about offering your perspective and then honoring her final decision. Recognizing the value of her feminine intuition.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It's about finding that balance between taking the lead and being respectful of her needs and wants.
Exactly. And that balance is key to understanding the next concept the book explores. A man's attraction to feminine energy.
Okay. Let's dive into that in part 2.
Sounds good.
I'm already feeling like I need to rethink some things.
Yeah, it's a thought-provoking book for sure.
It is.
So we're talking about a man's attraction to feminine energy. And the book's saying it's not only natural, but actually essential for maintaining that polarity we were talking about.
So it's not just about being attracted to women. But to anything that embodies feminine energy.
Exactly. The book specifically says men with a masculine essence are drawn to all things feminine. Women, music, nature, you name it. And this attraction, it's actually seen as a sign of a healthy, balanced psyche.
Okay. So it's not something to be ashamed of or try to hide.
Not at all.
But how do you navigate that? Especially if you're in a committed relationship.
Well, the book acknowledges that a man's needs and desires can change over time, and that's okay. It introduces this concept of a woman's temperature. Meaning how hot or cool her energy is. Think of it this way. Sometimes you need a fiery, passionate spark. And other times you crave a calm, soothing presence. That's a woman's temperature, and it's constantly shifting.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So the book is saying a man's attraction to a woman can be influenced by her temperature.
Right. And those needs in a man can change too, depending on what's going on in his life, his stress levels, all of that.
So even if you're deeply in love with your partner,
Right.
you might still feel drawn to other women at times.
The book suggests that's normal, and it's not about judging yourself or feeling guilty.
Right.
It's about understanding those deeper energetic needs that might be driving that attraction.
Okay. That takes a lot of pressure off, honestly. So how do you manage those feelings in a healthy way?
The book is all about honesty with yourself and with your partner. It's about finding healthy ways to meet your needs within the relationship.
I've been thinking about this, and I've definitely felt drawn to different types of people at different points in my life.
Of course.
It's like I was seeking a certain energetic balance.
Exactly. And the book says it's important to be aware of those shifts and how they relate to your overall well-being.
So it's not a threat to your relationship.
Right.
It's an opportunity for growth and understanding.
That's a great way to put it. And this leads to another area where the book gets really interesting,
Go for
even
it.
a bit controversial.
Okay.
It explores what it calls the dark side of masculine and feminine energy.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What does that even mean? Is it talking about toxic masculinity?
Not exactly. It suggests that fantasies of forced surrender exist in both men and women. But it's very careful to distinguish between healthy sexual expression and anything involving coercion or violence.
Okay, that's good to hear. So it's more about exploring those fantasies in a safe and consensual way.
What's the implication? Though it's definitely a delicate subject.
Yeah.
The book also talks about the importance of conscious ejaculation.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember that.
It's not about denying your desires, but about mastering your sexual energy.
Right.
The book argues that a man who can't control his ejaculation gives his woman power over him and diminishes his presence.
So it's about not being controlled by your urges.
Exactly. It's about channeling your sexual energy in a way that deepens connection without depleting you. It even talks about converting ejaculation into whole-body orgasms that are more fulfilling.
That's interesting. Is that something anyone can achieve?
The book seems to think so. It suggests that sexual energy can be a powerful tool for spiritual growth, a way of facing your fears and surrendering to love.
Wow. That's a powerful message. Reframing sexuality as a path to liberation.
Right. And it connects back to that idea of the superior man being fully present, grounded, and living in alignment with his deepest truth.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. I'm curious, what does the book actually say about how a man should behave in his relationship with a woman, considering all these perspectives on masculinity and femininity?
This is where the book gets very clear. It says that for a man with a masculine essence, his mission in life should take priority over his intimate relationship.
Whoa, hold on. So even if you're deeply in love,
Yeah.
your career or your purpose comes first?
That's what the book suggests.
Yeah. Wow.
And it contrasts this with the feminine perspective, where the flow of love, including her relationship, is her core priority.
So it's about recognizing and honoring those different priorities.
Exactly. And it's about communicating those priorities openly and honestly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I can see how resentment could build up if one person feels like they're constantly sacrificing their needs.
The book stresses that a man should be authentic about his priorities rather than faking interest in the relationship just to please his woman.
So it's about being true to yourself and trusting that your partner will respect that.
Right. It's about finding a balance between pursuing your individual passions while also nurturing the relationship.
And recognizing that sometimes that balance might mean spending time apart, whether it's alone or with other men.
The book emphasizes the importance of men's groups as a way to reconnect with that masculine energy and support each other's growth. It's not about isolating yourself from your partner, but about recognizing the value of different types of connection.
So creating a diverse support system.
Exactly. And it's about challenging each other to grow, face fears, and live life to the fullest.
This is all so much more than just being a man.
Right.
It's about being a conscious and intentional human being.
That's a great way to put it.
This has been really eye-opening. I'm excited to see what else the book has in store for us.
So we've gone pretty deep into the way of the superior man.
We have.
What are some of the things that really stuck with you?
You know, what really sticks with me is this idea of personal responsibility.
Okay.
It's not about blaming women or society or anything like that for your challenges. It's about stepping up as a man.
Right.
Owning your own growth, you know your evolution as a man.
Yeah.
It's about finding your path.
Exactly.
And being true to it,
Right.
not trying to fit into some box of what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
And it definitely challenges us to think about relationships differently.
It does.
Like moving beyond those old school roles and expectations.
It's about recognizing those differences between masculine and feminine energies, right?
Yeah.
And how they can actually work together to create a really magnetic connection.
I'll admit, some of these ideas were a little bit out there for me at first. But even if you don't agree with everything,
Right.
it makes you think.
It does. It does. Some of the book's perspectives are definitely unconventional, even, I'd say, controversial.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so valuable. It pushes you to examine your own beliefs, right?
Right?
Your own behaviors. Maybe even try some new things.
It's definitely sparked some good conversations, that's for sure.
It has.
For our listeners who are taking all of this in, what's the one question you'd want them to think about?
Think about this. Could consciously embodying masculine or feminine energy, regardless of gender, actually lead to more fulfilling relationships? Could it even help you connect more deeply with your purpose?
That's a good question. It gets right to the heart of what this book is about. Living a more conscious, authentic, empowered life.
Exactly. Breaking free from those limiting beliefs and embracing the fullness of who you are.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the way of the superior man. We hope it's given you some new insights, maybe even inspired you to explore your own path to your own truth, whether you're a man or a woman. Until next time.